for more on all this, let's welcome back to the show Art Laffer, former Reagan economist, Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, and author of Taxes Have Consequences. We're going to get to taxes in a second, Art, but the hypocrisy of this crowd. I mean, obviously they called it an anti-inflation act because at the time they needed the support of Senator Manchin and they wanted to try to prove that it was but it wasn't. It was a spending policy that made inflation, made the long-term effects of inflation worse, even if temporarily it came down. But you can't choke the life out of our fossil fuel industry and without seeing prices go up, which is exactly what's happening right now. It looks like we're going back to the days of higher inflation.
Yeah, David, they should distinguish between high prices and inflation. That's the real difference. Inflation is the rate of change of prices and the price level. We have the highest price level we've ever had in U.S. history today. That's high. Now, the rate of increase of that price level is slower than it had been, let's say, a year ago, but it's still quite high. So you see prices rise and then rising more slowly, and that's what people really care about. They don't care about inflation. They care about how high prices are, and prices are really high. They're the highest today they've ever been in U.S. history, period. So that's where it is, and the naming this the Inflation Reduction Act is just silly. It doesn't make any sense. Now, they're also making all the mistakes in the world they can on climate control. Even if you believe that there's a climate problem, even if you do, this is not the way to go about solving it. You should do just what Al Gore did, and what I agreed with is that you're going to have a carbon tax and offset it by 100% income tax match. So you get income tax rates down with a carbon tax if you want to address a carbon in the atmosphere problem. But that's not what these guys are doing. They're meddling with everything where they can try to control it. And it's just silly economics. I don't know who their advisors are.
Well, and as a result of their policy, the price of gas is going up. And that was one of the cost of energy is what really started the inflation bomb from exploding as it did in the first year of the Biden administration. So are we on that path again?
Well, sure we are. If you want to do something on the prices of energy, there should not be, you shouldn't try to control the pumping of gas out of the ground. That's not where the pollution occurs. It occurs in the burning of it in fuel. But fertilizer doesn't do any damage. And if we replaced American-made petroleum with foreign-made, it would be a lot cleaner, and we would replace it, and we would be energy independent. And we would have none of the pressures that are put on us. But these guys just don't understand straight up from Sikkim. They don't understand how to control economics, David. And it's just shocking how ill-educated they are.
Well, and then, Art, you have the problem of trying to fight inflation by one side of the equation, by the demand side, using the Fed, because there's no attempt to do it on the supply side by making more productivity, by creating more things, which would bring down the cost of inflation. And as a result of what the Fed is doing, we now have this record of 40% of the gross income of homeowners is being spent on their mortgage. 40%. We haven't seen anything like that since 2008, just before the housing bubble burst. It was 39%. So 40% is a record high. That's an enormous cost in the weekly income of Americans, to spend 40% of their income on their mortgage.
Yeah, and then their property tax rates, which are also really important. No one talks about this, David, but property tax rates along with mortgages combine to kill homeowners. They just kill them. Property tax rates have gone out of control, and we need to bring them down as well as bringing the interest rates down. But both of those together are just creaming homeowners. It's just terrible seeing that. And then they want to let the Trump tax cuts expire. How crazy is that, David?
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
the
exactly.
Only thing that saved us,
actually,
and only thing that's balanced the budget.
Just today in my email files, I saw this thing from the Committee of Responsible Federal Budget. The Beltway crowd is getting together, declaring war on extending the Trump tax cuts, suggesting that it's going to cost, their word, cost $3.3 trillion if you extend the Trump tax cuts, to which you say what?
Let me make a point. Yeah, let me make a point about that. Tax revenues in the 2 years that followed it, including the fourth quarter of 17 And the 2 years there were much higher. Federal taxes were much higher than they had been the 2 years prior to it and the 2 years prior to that. It's steady, and then the increase was larger. That's federal, and federal, state, and local combined was even bigger.
Yep.
So revenues were way up as a result of the tax cuts. Poverty was down. GDP was much higher. All of that, but they want to eliminate all that. They want unemployment and big deficits. That's what they're looking for.
Well, and
they're
again,
just
the
silly
revenue
people who don't know economics.
increased because the overall economy increased. There were more people working, pouring more money into the revenue. There were more items being made. There was all that economic activity added to the income, not only of the private sector, but also the government sector.
That's right. And people paid their taxes. They didn't look for tax shelters. There was a reduction in sheltering, a reduction of hiding income and all that sort of stuff, which is just what you want on taxes.
So you
Low
didn't
rate,
need
broad-based, flat tax.
And you didn't need to supersize the IRS in order to get all that either, which is another crazy thing they wanted to do. All right.
You're great.
Art, we got to leave it at that, my friend. Good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate
You're great. Good to see you, sir. I haven't seen you in a while.
It's been a while. Good to have you back.
You don't love me anymore?
No, I'm still here.
Thank you, sir.
See you later.